All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming today. My name is Kevin Rada with the Communications Department here at the City of Fayetteville, and we are here today broadcasting live on Fay TV and Facebook Live and a bunch of other lives, I think, from the media out here to announce the police chief candidate selection for the City of Fayetteville. So with us today is Mr. Doug Hewett, our city manager, who will be making that announcement. Following his announcement, we'll, of course, take questions from the media, and as I said earlier, please wait for the mic to come to you so that we can hear you over the TV as well, so our broadcasting audience can listen in. So without further ado, Mr. Hewett.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming today, and I'd also like to thank the public for their full participation in what has been an exhaustive search for our next police chief. In addition to having more than 30 candidates, we narrowed that list down to 5, for which we invited 4 candidates here to Fayetteville four candidates originally to interview with us, and then we brought in 3 candidates as well for a public forum which was held as well. It's not enough to say that they just interviewed. We also examined their writing skills. We had them go through a community meeting, coaching of fellow employees. We did a simulated budget presentation because with more than $54 million worth of budgetary control in our city, the person not only has to be our top cop, but they also have to also understand and mind the business of the police department. But they also have to know how to treat people. Not only treat people who are external to our organization, but also the more than 608 employees that work every day at the Fayetteville Police Department. It has, as I said, been a very deliberative process. It's been probably one of the toughest decisions I've had to make to date. It, as compared to the budget, this far exceeds the difficulty in preparing myself as well as the organization for who will next be our next police chief. I'm very pleased with the process and with those who I've had the good fortune to consider. Those being Chief James Henson, our current interim chief, Anthony Kelly, and Chief Gina Hawkins. All 3 of them were highly qualified and would be very successful in doing the job. But ultimately it came down to some of the things which may not necessarily show themselves on paper. It came down to some things which not necessarily show themselves in a reference check. It came down to who do I believe has the skills and ability to move us forward as an organization, but also as a community. I was most impressed with this candidate's ability to listen, to first understand what was being said to them and by whom, and to really feel the emotions and the needs of the community before they sought to be understood themselves. I was very impressed with this candidate's education. All of the candidates had a minimum of a bachelor's degree. This candidate had a master's degree. I was also impressed with the candidate's attention to detail. And some of our earlier exercises, the candidates all came exceedingly well prepared, but this candidate had such attention to detail to every little nuance as it related to various elements of our selection process. I also looked for a candidate who had the ability to adapt, an ability to evolve. And this candidate, after reviewing their career of more than 28 years in law enforcement, has shown the ability to do just that. And I also needed someone who had a sense of humor. This is very serious work. It is very demanding, not only on the person individually, on the department, on the community, but you have to be able to do it with a sense of humility and at times a sense of humor as well. And most important, the ability to connect with people on their level. My selection, therefore, for the next City of Fayetteville Police Chief is Gina Hawkins. Gina comes to us from Atlanta area, where she has served as the Deputy Chief of the Clayton County Police Department. She's overseen field operations and support services commands for a county of more than 260,000 residents. Chief Hawkins holds a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice from Georgia State University and a Master of Science in Management from Johns Hopkins University. She is a graduate of the Senior Management Institute for Police and a graduate of the FBI National Academy. She was also chosen to be a delegate in the prestigious 23rd Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange by traveling to Israel with other law enforcement executives to study and evaluate the Israeli Police Department and as it relates to counterterrorism. Gina brings a wealth of different experiences to the job. and I look forward to what she will be able to accomplish with all of the great officers and staff who have been with our department. But I'd also say I am exceedingly grateful to our interim chief, Anthony Kelly, who has done in his time as interim chief an amazing job. He has kept the police department moving forward during some challenging times and will continue to be an influential asset within the department. But I hope that you will understand that Ms. Hawkins is still working in Clayton County, but we will make available times for the media and the public to meet her between now and August the 14th when she starts work. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions that you have.
Obviously, she is going to be Fayetteville's first female police chief. Did that come into play into your decision-making process as we're seeing other metropolitan cities picking women as chiefs of police?
No, it did not. As I mentioned, this is a very difficult decision. It's one that is being watched exceedingly closely. Looking at the audience that we have here, it is one that impacts a great deal of folks, and it was more important to me that we pick the right person than worrying about their gender or ethnicity or any of those other criteria.
What was the date she's starting?
August 14th.
14th. Unpopular question, but Mr. City Manager, do you realize what an unpopular decision this is locally?
Well, I would actually say, Jeff, this is the decision to name Ms. Hawkins is not only based upon my own observations, but it is also supported by what came out of our assessment center. It is also consistent with a lot of the feedback I received from members of the public who participated in the public forum as well. Anthony Kelly has, as I said, done an amazing job, and nothing that in this decision should be seen to diminish that or his role in our department moving forward.
Tell us a little bit about her. I mean, is she married? She got family? She gonna be moving family down here?
Well, I'm sure that Gina will be happy to share some of those personal details with you. I do know from what we've shared previously that she is 49 years old, and she, as she shared during the public forum, she has a young daughter, and tonight is actually her daughter's birthday, which is one of the reasons that it's going to be somewhat difficult for her to be available to some of the phone calls that you might wish to make to her tonight.
Is she a single mom?
I don't believe she's married at this time.
Real quick. You listed off of a long string of things that really impressed you. Mm-hmm. Out of that list, what was the top attribute for her that put her over the top in your mind?
It was really the ability to adapt and evolve. When we talked about how we do crime analysis in our community, it's very similar to what occurs probably in many professional police departments around the country and the world. And Gina was able to share with us a time when that first started, how difficult it was for her as a young officer going into one of those kind of crime stat meetings and feeling like what they had to say mattered. And she felt that it was an overly intimidating process. And so she's made it her goal every chance that she's had to make sure that she's able to de-escalate those feelings in other officers. Her advanced degree, her continuing education, both with the FBI National Academy as well as with the Georgia International trip to Israel. Those are some of the things that I would highlight that probably give me the greatest comfort that she will be able to equally come to us here in Fayetteville and adapt to life and work here in Fayetteville.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Chief Medlock was pretty big on community policing.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Kelly was still going along those same lines. Do you see a different direction in terms of the new chief and how she will approach this particular community that services a large military population? And was that some of the questioning that you did in her selection, letting her know that the difference of this community because of the large military population here?
Yes, that was a question that we posed to her, and it was also something that I think was shared in part of some of the public forum. Gina, like the other candidates as well, are strong proponents of community policing. They're also very big on transparency and on integrity. And so I would say that for all of the candidates, that was something that they fully embraced, and I know that I look forward to Gina coming here and seeing what we're doing as well as enhancing it as well. I had my conversation with Gina, today is Tuesday. It would have been, she and I spoke most recently yesterday.
So how did she rank when you told her?
She's exceedingly thrilled. She's very excited about coming here. The position fulfills one of her lifelong and career goals, which was to be a police chief in a large metropolitan area such as Fayetteville. She is looking forward to coming here and joining our department and also being a member of our community too.
Did,
How did interim chief Kelly tell him? How'd you react?
Anthony Kelly is a consummate professional. He pledged his 100% support behind making Ms. Hawkins very successful. He is a career employee here with us at Fayetteville Police Department. And again, I know that I thank him for his service to date as interim chief, but I knew that I could count on him to fully support her in this new role as well.
in your discussions with the new chief, did you talk with her about the pitiful diversity numbers in the department, that 80 of the officers, of the 433, I think that's 19%, are African American? In a city that is 40-50 black-white.
No, Jeff, we did not talk about that during our conversation yesterday, but as you know, that is one of the performance measures that the department tracks and follows, and it's also something that when she arrives as chief that she will be made aware of as well.
So let me ask you, follow up what Jeff asked you
Just
earlier.
one
What is the support, did you get 100% support from the city council when you told them?
The city council supports and understands that this is a very tough decision, but a tough decision that I had to make. We provided opportunities for the council members to meet and interact with the candidates. Not all of the council members were able to do that. The council is most concerned with understanding kind of the thought processes, some of that I've shared with you here, some of the important goals that we have for the community. And they, like members of our department as well, don't want to go back to some of the days of old where the police department and the community did not share a very positive relationship. But I have received wide-ranging support from the council members, particularly about the process that we used, about it being open and transparent.
Thank you.
Yes, I understand she has a reputation kind of as a no-nonsense person. Is that the kind of person you think that Fayetteville needs as a police chief?
I would say, as I mentioned, that I think that a lot of her characteristics that I saw displayed and in the reference checks as well really speak to someone who, as you were alluding to, has great integrity. Someone who holds herself to a high standard as well as everyone else in the department. But I also saw a different side of Gina, and I think people who were able to participate in the public forum in person or watched it on TV or online were able to also see that she's a real person. She's someone that you can engage and have a conversation with. And as I mentioned before, in my conversation, this is follow-up, I guess, to one of the earlier questions as well, in factoring into her decision to actually accept the position. Because one thing that is true, not only were we interviewing her, but she was also interviewing us. She needed to make sure it was going to be a good fit. And she, in accepting the offer, mentioned the fact that the warmness, the graciousness of the officers, of the city staff, as well as the professional nature of the police department made her feel that this would be a place in which she could flourish.
Jeff, wait for the mic, please, so the audience can hear.
Is she also aware of the remarkable reputation the Fayetteville Police Department has evolved over the last few years?
Absolutely. Steve?
Yeah, aside from Chief Kelly's work that you've mentioned, this will be kind of starting over versus a continuation. Did that play into your thinking at all?
No, we have some fairly long-standing programs in our police department. When I look around the room here and I look at the members of the police department who are here and talking to members of the police department as well, this is not a do-over. This is, again, when I said that she first seeks to understand, she listens. I would envision that she, as any chief would, will eventually make some changes. But I think her first task will be to really understand the department, understand our programs, and definitely get embedded in our community as well. But we have some great programs here. We have great officers. We have great clearance rates. And I would not envision that she would come in and her first order of business would be to change a lot of things dramatically until she fully understood the lay of the land.
During the interview process, did she mention specifically a problem or an area that she saw in the Fayetteville Police Department that she would like to improve?
Well, some of the things that came out as part of the public forum and some of those in conversations for all of the candidates had to do with some of our crime rate. Some of it had to do with our accident rate, pedestrian safety, as well as enhancing our technology. And I know that when Gina comes, and as I mentioned, my hope is that we'll have an opportunity between now and August 14th when she starts to have her here where we can talk about her vision for her first 30, 60, 90 days, and I'm sure she'll be able to highlight some of that as well. There was a question behind.
Yes, sir. Interim Chief Kelly was very open to work with pastors, religious community, social community. Has Chief Hawkins expressed the same desire to continue that on?
Absolutely. I think that has been the hallmark of the Fayetteville Police Department with Interim Chief, Chief Medlock, and even before as well. We are a community of diverse population, but one of the things that really does hold our community together in many ways is that we're a community of faith as well. And I think that both for the mayor's coalition, he has a pastor's group, as well as the ones that the police department works with as well, I would anticipate and that would continue, fully continue. Well, if there are no more questions at the moment, I will be available for a few minutes as well if there are some individual questions that you'd like as well. Again, thank you all for coming out, and I look forward to welcoming Chief Hawkins here in August. Thank you.